Hi, I'm Nick.
Hello, I'm Grayson.
And welcome back to the Casually Hardcore Podcast YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about what our impressions are of the Halo War 2's DLC Season Pass and the most recent content, the two missions. Yeah. Grayson, so far, what do you think's kind of been your impressions so far of what's been going on?
So far, well, with the DLC, it's been mostly leaders, and then finally they've added their expansion.
Yeah, cool.
Which was, yeah, So the leaders have been so far. Some of them have been really cool, and then a lot of them have been pretty, but most of them have been pretty cool. I used to think they weren't that good, and then I started playing a lot of Halo Wars 2 again recently, and then I started thinking they were a lot more worth it.
Right.
I still don't think it should be called a season pass, to be honest. I think they should just rename it to like a leader bundle or something.
Yeah.
Because the other expansion they have coming out in the fall is going to be separate, and it's just... Normally with season passes, you buy one and then that's everything.
Exactly.
Except for some small things like recently. Here's an example of DLC they released separately that I'm fine with them releasing separately. They had these skin packs that came with. There was this Twitter thing they had, and then they had a skin pack with the
limited edition
with the loot crate thing. And it's like, you know what? That's fine releasing separately. That was never included with the season pass, and it's separate. And I completely understand why that was separate. And then you have this other expansion called Awaken the Nightmare that has new story, new leaders, and new gameplay modes. The only thing on what I just mentioned, which was a new gameplay mode, is the only thing that wasn't mentioned on the season pass.
Right.
So I'm over being angry about it, but like you have to understand the reason why anyone was angry at first is because it's told, hey, that season pass you bought that would include these things. Here's another DLC pack that includes these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of give some clarity what we're going to do the rest of the video, we're going to have a little bit of backstory about what the Season Pass is and what's included in kind of the controversy surrounding the campaign missions that you actually are watching here in the background. Yeah. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the negatives, what we didn't like about the Season Pass, what we would like to be changed. And then obviously there's every negative, there's a positive. We'll be talking about that as well. And then kind of overall summary, do we think we should buy it? Do you should wait on sale? Well, and we'll go with that. So the backstory about it is that Halo Wars 2 released, went back in...
I don't remember.
February? This year?
It was either February or March.
Right.
One of the two.
And they had the same kind of season pass thing that Halo 5 did, where it was content right out the gate for about 6 months.
No, Halo 5 didn't even have a season pass.
Well, I'm talking about just DLC.
Oh, yeah.
Like, right out the gate, the DLC was just boom, 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 back to back.
Yeah.
And the $20 didn't seem too bad. You know, it was $20 for a season pass, and typically the season passes of old have been like $40, $50.
Oh, yeah.
So you see this $20 price point, you're like, that's a budget bargain.
Yeah.
I'll get that. But today's content that's so much free, you expect good content.
Yeah.
And a lot of the season pass characters have been hit or miss, I believe. A lot of them are dead.
Yeah, a lot. 4 of the characters that have been released have been dead characters.
Yeah.
4 out of 8 characters are dead.
Right, exactly. And it's just like, well, you can't use them going forward unless you bring them back.
Yeah. I always thought it would have been like, there's been a couple characters that they released that are completely original characters. Like there is Kinsano, who is the fire person.
Right.
And then they released Colony, who was the hunter, and those were really cool. I always thought it would be like, you know what? How much cooler would it have been to like introduce new characters through the gameplay and get people to touch these characters through the gameplay rather than random Halo Wars character 1, let's use him.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And it's not like they need to be important to the story.
Mm-hmm.
They could just be minor things.
Yeah.
So, but, oh well. I still really like Johnson, though. Johnson was cool.
Johnson was very cool. And I guess to kind of leading into the more negative aspects of it, so part of the season pass, it was 8 heroes, right?
It's been, I think...
10 heroes, maybe? Because you can't really include Sergeant Forge for free on that. I think it's about 10 heroes, give or take.
I think 10 heroes, yeah.
And it was also promised to include a campaign expansion.
And then they
reworded it recently when they announced the Flood Nightmare DLC. Awaken the Nightmare. Yeah. And everybody thought, wow, this is the new expansion. Like, they're going to go off with a bang. It's going to be the Flood.
Yeah.
And they're going to wait until the fall to release it. So you're going to have all these content heroes in the beginning.
Yeah.
Maybe some maps in between. And then that, which would be a really good content schedule for... RTS, right?
Yeah.
And typically Certain Affinity with their Total War series, or I think they're working with Sega, they're really, really good. Really? And their expansions are huge. But these expansions, either way, I mean...
I have a feeling someone at Microsoft or someone higher up made these decisions and they were just being really, really, really dumb.
I just feel like the characters came out too quickly. There wasn't enough... There's not been a single map released, which is another huge negative as well.
And the maps that they are releasing, they're free maps. They're not part of the season pass, which that's fine. It's just, it kind of devalues the season pass more.
Well, it's just like when you look at expansions of RTSs, they bring in new factions, they bring in a ton of new maps. It's like the Battlefield series when they bring in these they have like new maps, new guns, new factions. It's a huge deal, and it really invests the character and the people into what they're coming back to because it's basically a brand new game in a sense.
Yeah.
This has been more of like micro DLC, and then on top of that, they have microtransactions built into the game.
Yeah.
Which is extremely frustrating. And even their microtransaction of Blitz Firefight has one map.
That was the first thing to get over. Yeah. The first thing was like, really? You're selling DLC on top of microtransactions? Which I got over that, but it's like, it's really, really hard to support them on these kind of decisions.
Yeah, and it's just like, why were these decisions made, especially considering the Halo Wars 2 season pass, or Halo Wars 1 season pass was really good because it came out.
Wait, did it have a season pass?
Oh, yeah. Had really the 4 new maps were really good. Didn't have any heroes, but it had 4 new maps.
It was basically just maps DLC, right?
Yeah, and but it was cool though because the maps were really cool.
Yeah,
and it was cheap. But the thing is also they haven't introduced any game modes either. The Halo Wars 1 DLC introduced game modes. Like Capture the Flag was a cool one.
Well, again, like I said, the Awaken the Nightmare thing. What they're introducing is a mode that that's kind of funny. When you play through the campaign, the regular campaign, there's those couple of missions where it's like build a base and try to survive a couple waves. And I always thought, it'd be really cool if the actual firefight mode that they had was like you build bases and that's what you do for firefight, rather than blitz with AI, which is what they call firefight.
Right, and Firefight's a huge mode in the Halo series ever since ODST 3 or Halo 3 ODST.
Yeah,
and you would think that this new mode coming out, because most DLCs when they release modes, they're typically freemium. So you have like the paid parts of it, but they'll release the mode for free. Firefight's locked behind DLC.
Yeah,
are you kidding me? And it's a $20 expansion, and you get get me wrong, you get blur cutscenes, you get the beginning and the end, which is high value. You got 3 new leaders, which is value, but going back to the principle is they promised an expansion within their season pass, and then they reworked it for these 2 missions you're seeing now currently, which don't get me wrong, they're okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the pop.
Actually, I think we should start talking about that now, since the whole reason we went into this backstory thing is to give perspective on why we feel about this way about these missions, because going on to a couple community services, you see a lot of 343 guys going, don't critique it that hard, it's just a side thing we made just for fun. But you have to understand from our perspective, okay, yeah, that could be how y'all approached it, but you're selling this as official content, and it's not like a free thing y'all added or anything.
Right.
It's paid for DLC.
Yeah, it's our money.
Yeah.
Exactly. We worked hard to pay for this and buy this because we think it's a product worth value. And in anything, DLC like that's paid probably devalues the game even more because the content feels half-assed.
Yeah.
And, I mean, don't get me wrong, I thought it was kind of meh. Personally, the gameplay was amazing. I love the second mission just because the time part and the hunter with Colony being brought in was really cool.
The funny part is that looking back on the second mission felt like a lot like a Halo Wars 1 story mission.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was creative. It wasn't tied into tutorial. It basically knew that you knew the game mechanics and let you have fun with it. And I think that's what was missing in the entire Halo Wars 2 campaign, so that was cool.
Going back through a couple of missions through the original Halo Wars campaign, it is a very tutorial-y campaign. It isn't the only really fun mission from Halo Wars 2 campaign really comes near the end, and I think the most fun mission, which actually kind of acts like Blitz in a way, is the final mission where you don't even spawn units, it just gives you units to defend against massive waves of enemies.
And the first mission, which you're seeing here again, I keep iterating that, is kind of the first intro to this ODST squad, which only 2 characters are voiced.
Yeah.
And then you have this Warlord Chief dude who's not even voiced it. I mean, you don't even have a character name.
I thought that was weird how they brought, it's not weird, it's cool to see Warlord back, but it's like, is this the Warlord from Halo Wars 1?
I don't think it is.
I don't know.
I don't think it. Honestly, I think it's just a random character they set in. I feel like, kind of to your point, where this content's like, oh, we made it for fun. This is what it feels like. This feels like an intern project.
Yeah.
That are like some new recruits, new hires. They're like, hey, get familiar with our tools.
Yeah.
And use this as a base. Like, for instance, when Battlefield 3 was kind of at the waning, or Battlefield 4 was at waning hours.
Yeah.
They did this intern project at EA and DICE. They brought in these new guys, new hires and interns worked together, and they released brand new maps within Frostbite for free because that was their first projects to work on.
Yeah. More conspiracy theories about the season pass, but it feels like that they were putting more time and budget to Awaken the Nightmare, and then it's like, oh shit, this is taking too much money. We can't sell this as part of the season pass. So it's like, you know what? Let's just make this its own thing. Add a couple more things here and there. And it's like, oh wait, we advertise single player stuff. Let's get some new people at certain affinity or whatever to make some maps here and there, and that's it.
Right.
Because like, here's the thing: they're really well designed missions, but they're reusing a lot of stuff from the campaign leaders, or not the campaign, the DLC leaders. Right. And the campaign.
Well, because they didn't make any new enemies for this DLC. They basically integrated their DLC that they had made into missions, which, don't get me wrong, that was really cool, and I really enjoyed that factor.
I would actually be more frustrated if they didn't do that.
Yeah, because a lot of the new, like the Mantises you're seeing here with the DLC units with Johnson. Yeah. And then the next mission you have the Colossus, but then you have the Warlord and his new units in this one, and then you have in the second one you have the Hunter units, which are really cool. Yeah. But it's just like, there's no new maps. Yeah. There's no new game modes. And you have some heroes that literally feel like they were either pre-production created already. Yeah. Or they feel like, we're going to throw in Mantises.
I recognize the male ODST's voice actor. I forget which unit he was, but he the voice actor for Vaughn, I think his name is, he's already a unit voice actor, so it's not like he was hard to get or anything.
Yeah, they didn't hire in brand new voice actors to take on anything. Yeah. If anything, they may have recorded their lines for this earlier on. Yeah. Like, this is the biggest negative I think of this is that for $20, this feels extremely low budget. Yeah, and I feel like it takes away from the really excellent heroes that they've created.
Well, just to make sure we don't like say this is $20, but like this is part of it.
Yeah, it's part of the $20. I just feel like I just bundled it all.
But it's still paid content, right? This does not feel like it's
paid content
worthy of being paid content.
Well, if you look at, for kind of take away from Halo Wars 2, Dying Light has been selling like crazy, and it's doing really, really well. And they just announced 10 free DLCs. And part of that is a brand new faction, brand new zombies, brand new weapons, brand new skins, and a brand new kind of game mode for free.
Really?
And those are like the same scale as these missions. Yeah. And the new leaders, the new faction has voice acting. It has its own little side mission in it. It's just like, companies these days have made Halo Wars 2 has definitely made a lot of money for them. It has to. I feel like they've made their budget back in more.
They wouldn't have continually supported this long if it didn't profit them at least.
Exactly, and it's side note: never do a suicide rush or lose all your units. I learned that the hard way.
I warned him. Don't. It's gonna take more than a couple Wolverines.
Nope. I figured my ODST's Wolverines and my eventual Pal Nightgale that dies can handle that. But
and they try to control the thing. It's like, no, that's not gonna work.
Well, off the note of losing all my units and a really kind of negative opinion on the pass, let's talk about the positives. What was your favorite part of this, or like favorite parts of this pass, Grayson?
Okay, so like, positives of these missions is that they're very well designed missions. They're very fun to play through. Yeah, and I really like how, aside from the gimmicky the thing, which is really only used for the I forget what it was. I think it was called the Protector Sentinel or something, or Controller Sentinel. That's what it was. Yeah, it's really only used for that. The mixture of abilities they have from all the different DLC leaders is really well done. Like, you can send in a Grizzly. You don't have access to a Grizzly in the garage, which is the vehicle thing, but you can send in Grizzlies, which is really cool. You can send in ODSTs, and it's just a really well-rounded combination of units, and it's really fun to experiment with that kind of stuff, because even in the multiplayer you can't really do that. And this kind of the way this mission is structured, where it is base building, you can really experiment with kind of different combos that you can't do in the multiplayer or the original campaign.
Right, and I feel like that, at least from that, and then the gameplay is really fun too. Yeah, the gameplay in these missions, I think, are probably the funnest two missions out of the entire story, personally, in my opinion. And they're paced very well, even though they're relatively short. I'm sure if you play on higher difficulties, they're going to be longer, but any game that you play on higher difficulties is going to extend the length. Yeah. The meat is probably on the normal mode when you play on normal, which I did. Obviously, I'm not an RTS guru, so I'm not going to go play on heroic or legendary because I don't want to get my ass kicked by AI that will just absolutely decimate me and know my every move. Yeah. But those are the two positives, I think. And like you said, just incorporating the DLC in a very, very good way to kind of get people, I think, familiar with maybe heroes they didn't play as. Yeah. And it kind of gives them, hey, what's this? They're going to go back and play that hero. Yeah. My personal, I guess, positive favorites would be, like kind of Grayson said, iterating, is the fact that Grizzlies are back and ODSTs are back. You couldn't even do that in the first game.
Actually, I'm pretty sure Grizzlies came in near the end of the campaign, and then ODSTs are part of...
in the Halo Wars 2 campaign?
Yeah, in the Halo Wars 2 campaign, I'm pretty sure Grizzlies come in one of the missions.
It's the last mission, but they don't have ODST access.
Actually, yes, Cutter has ODSTs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a special unit, or he can send in ODSTs.
Well, totally derailed me there.
Yeah.
Totally wrong. But, I mean, I guess the Sentinels aspect of it was really cool. The maps are really cool, too. Yeah. I really wish that these maps that they've created were turned into multiplayer maps. Like the bridge camp.
This looks like a multiplayer map.
Yeah, well, it's not, though. I mean, it's...
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying I'm pretty sure the assets come from a multiplayer map.
Oh, I agree. But I feel like the way they're retooled and designed and their layouts are really, really cool. You could definitely have a lot of dynamic battles.
Actually, yeah, that would be a pretty cool idea. Because like one of the things about this mission is that there's this huge area where a ton of Sentinels are taking on banished units. That would be a really cool, like, kind of multiplayer map to have all these different, like, rogue factions that you have to fight for control of.
Right.
Because really all it is in the multiplayer is that all you really, in terms of rogue factions, is that there's 3 Sentinels guarding a generator around the map, and that's really it. But, like, that really would create some cool dynamics. Like, not only have to take down the other enemy, you have to take down these rogue factions to get some extra things.
Right, and I feel like, unfortunately, that's the only positives I have about these 2 missions.
Yeah.
But overall, about the season pass, what have been your favorite so far, like, of overall, the overarching pass that they've offered for Halo Wars 2?
So far, some of the leaders are really well designed, and, like, I really like Colony, and I really like Johnson. Forge was really cool, and then some of the other leaders I've just barely got, like, I barely ignored. Like, Serena is the newest one, and she's fine. She's not anything special. Another dead character.
Yeah, kind of going back on that theme.
Yeah.
Almost every UNSC character's dead. That's been released.
Yeah.
Besides Kitana or Kisano.
Kisano is... Yeah.
And I think that's it. Jerome.
Jerome, yeah, Commander Jerome. That was a really cool one. Yeah, I forgot. I can't believe I forgot about him. He's probably the coolest UNSC leader they've made so far.
I was skeptical on it just because it's a Spartan that was used as a character in the first game as a playable, like, as a unit.
Yeah.
But the Spartan Team Omega was super cool. Plus his mech, his Super Mantis.
Yeah.
He's my favorite character.
Yeah.
I think the characters they introduced have been top notch. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited for Yip Yap or Yig Yag.
It's Yip Yap.
Yip Yap.
Yip Yap, the Destroyer with the Prophet of Truth's crown, which is crazy.
I wonder if they're going to introduce the Grunt mech.
That would be really cool if they introduced the Goblin.
The Goblin? I think they might do that. I'd be surprised if they didn't do that.
That would be really, really cool.
It's the last leader's a Grunt leader, and it's definitely like a gag throwaway.
Yeah.
But it seems like they could do a lot of really cool stuff with it.
There's one thing about the Grunt DLC leader that they have to have. It has to be voiced by Joseph Staten.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
It has to be voiced by him.
Yeah. I think if that's the case, that'll be a good wrap.
Yeah.
To the end of the season pass.
Yeah.
I just, again, kind of reiterate, I wish they had more maps.
Yeah.
I feel like once you play the really small amount that they have, now I get RTS is about the gameplay, but scenery really helps on where you go, and especially too on strategies and what to do. Mm-hmm. RTS's players that are really competitive, they figure out what the best strategy for that map is, and they play it 100% of the time.
Yeah.
It's just like Pokemon. You get your best team, and you play it over and over and over and over again. Yeah. There's not much variation. Or there's very little variation at those high competitive
The only
levels.
reason why, like, in high competitive Pokemon, you see variation is because there's a lot of random numbers that go into that game.
Right, exactly. And in this game, there's just not a lot of randomity because there's not much content.
Yeah.
So overall, what would you rate this pass? Kind of a rating, and would you buy it day one, or would you wait for it's on sale? I mean,
out of 10, I'd probably say the whole season pass is probably I want to say 7, but it feels like a 6, so I'm going to go with 6 out of 10.
Why a 6 out of 10?
Because the DLC missions are just, they're very low effort, and they don't feel like they'd be worthy of paid content. And also, not a lot of the DLC leaders have been extremely interesting, and that's really it. That's all my opinion about it.
I agree. Would the incorporation of the Flood DLC improve that if it was added into it?
Oh, if Awaken the Nightmare was a part of the season pass, that would shoot up to an 8 or a 9 really quickly.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the general consensus on the Reddit forums. Anything kind of involving 343's social interaction.
Yeah.
I would rate it about a 5 out of 10, to be quite honest. I feel like the heroes were already planned out in development of the main game. I don't really feel like anything they've added has been anything like too risk-taking. It's been very mechy. So like, oh, okay, you have a Mantis. Well, now you have a Super Mantis. Or now you have the Omega Mantis. You know, you just have a lot of things that really feel like, to me, didn't take a lot of creativity. Now, they're very cool, don't get me wrong. but they just don't feel like it took a lot of time to make them. It really feels like they had a deadline for each character, and they put that much time into it, and they did it.
Yeah, to reiterate that point, like the newest DLC leader, Serena, okay, the concept is cool. It's like, oh, it's the flame troopers, but now they're cryo troopers.
Yeah, they're ice.
Yeah, in a sense. Which is like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but it's literally, okay, take the flame troopers, replace a particle effect, replace the backpack, done.
Yeah, they're basically elements. They're taking it to ice. Now, the element factor is really cool. I like the elements, like with Kasana, with fire, and then with ice here. But then fire's already been in the base game. They just put it on a Warthog.
Yeah.
And they didn't put the plain Warthog decal on it. That really made me mad. But I just feel, again, it was very lazy. Now, for $20, you get what you get. Yeah. I just feel like I've been gypped a little bit with that Flood DLC. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to get that, and I'll probably review it later on just because I'm a huge Flood fan, a huge Halo fan. I buy content like crazy. But for right now, it's 5 out of 10. I would wait. If you haven't bought it yet, wait. Wait for the eventual season pass on sale. I think for $15 to $10, this thing's a no-brainer buy.
What I would actually recommend is actually get the Awaken the Night. If the Awaken the Nightmare season pass is what I think it's going to be, which it doesn't look like it's not going to. But if it is, I'd recommend wait till that DLC comes out, see if it's good, then get that DLC, and then buy some of the leaders that you think look interesting, because part of the reason why this firefight update, or the firefight mode that they're releasing in Awaken the Nightmare, is so looked forward to, is because of how replayable that is with the different leaders and different kind of strategy. Because it's kind of like a base, like a tower defense in a way.
Yeah.
So it's like with all these different leaders, you have access to different strategies, so it makes it a lot more replayable. Yeah. So I recommend get that DLC, get some of the leaders you think would look interesting, and that's how you should approach the DLC.
I totally agree. So buy the first DLC. And wait for maybe a sale on the second one, on the total, or maybe just pick and choose what characters you might want to buy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Don't buy Operation Spearbreaker. It's not worth anything.
Yeah, not at all. Well, we really thank you for taking the time to tune in and listen to our impressions on these next 2 missions and the season pass DLC. Look forward to the next video later this fall, when the Awakening of the Flood returns, and hopefully they don't get killed off in one expansion. We'll see how that works out. But
343, they like to introduce something interesting and then kill it off in a cutscene.
Yeah, 343 is really great at building stuff and killing them off right away. We'll keep continuing to have a lot of content. Grayson here is kind of the content leader in a sense, where he'll be putting out a ton of content. Look forward to content from the guys, from Connor, Alan, myself, Harrison, and Diego. And have a great day. Thanks for joining us in.